Hi, I'm Tina Flores. I'm a certified professional dog trainer and a certified separation anxiety trainer. Right, so I'm going to show how to teach your dog to go to a mat and relax behavior. And this is a really good skill for any dog to have in any situation. But for example, if you have a dog who runs to the door when somebody rings the doorbell, it's a good cue to have to tell them to go to their bed or go to their mat, so they have somewhere to go where they're out of the way while your guests come in. They can relax there. You can also take it with you when you go to a cafe or anywhere outside, so that the dog has a target to go lay down and knows what to do, and it's a portable target that you can take with you. Now, normally, if you were teaching your dog this for the first time, you would want to do it inside your house in a quiet area without distractions. Here we're in a park, there's squirrels, there's birds, there's lawnmowers going on, so it's a more distracting, challenging environment. Now, this is a behavior that my dog Kona knows, but it might be more challenging for him to do it in this sort of environment too. But we'll see how he does. Oh, you're going to show off. Okay. Good boy. Okay. So when you're first teaching your dog to do it, you want to reward them. Yes, good boy, just for approaching the mat. And as they get closer to it, you can reward them. When he's on the mat, I continue to reward him so he knows that staying on that mat is what I want and is valuable for him. You want to look for very small things, very small approximations that you can reward. So for example, like I was saying, if he didn't know what this mat was and he just kind of walked towards it, I would reward that. And then, so that makes him think, okay, well, there's something over here that's getting me rewarded. So as he gets closer to the mat, I reward him until he's touching the mat. I reward that. And then if he decides to stand on it, reward that. If he decides to sit on it. So any small things that I can reward when I'm first teaching a new behavior is what I'm looking for, because I want the dog to be able to stay engaged with me and not wait too long to reward him, because otherwise he's just going to get bored and walk away or get frustrated. And so I want to, even if it's not the final behavior that I'm looking for, I want to reward any approximation and for just kind of staying in the game with me at that point. Say you have a new puppy or a new rescue dog that maybe never learned basic behaviors like a sit or a down or something like that. One of the ways that you can teach it is it's called capturing. So meaning when the dog does the behavior naturally, dogs are going to sit or lay down once in a while. You can capture that behavior at that point, say yes or click it, give them a treat for that. And another way to do it is it's called shaping, which is more of catching those small approximations to get the behavior, the final behavior that you want. And so for a dog, for example, if you didn't notice it, so I could hold a piece of food in front of his face and kind of move it up so that he kind of shifted his weight backwards a little bit, and I rewarded that because that's the first approximation of getting into the position of a sit. Now, sometimes when people get puppies, they want to teach them to sit by forcefully doing this. And you can see that even though he knows how to sit, he's not doing anything by me pushing on his back. And for one thing, you could injure your dog by doing that if you're pushing too hard. It could scare the dog and forcing him to do the behavior. And it's just, they learn better too when they're figuring it out for themselves rather than you forcing them to do that. Where they're like, okay, you just made me do something, but I'm not quite sure why or what you wanted me to do. So for the separation anxiety training, even before COVID, we found that working with our separation anxiety dogs remotely is really helpful because it allows us to see exactly what the dog is doing when they're left alone by their humans without introducing any external factors into their environment. For example, a trainer who smells like chicken and hot dogs and other things that might be distracting for the dog. They have no idea that a trainer's even watching them through video chat, through Zoom or a similar program on the computer. So what we do is we have the guardian of the dog set up the laptop, tablet, whatever sort of mobile device, and that way they can leave the house and I can see exactly the behaviors that the dog displays as they're getting anxious, so we know where to start the behavior protocol from, because we want to be able to do a desensitization program where the dog is comfortable before they start getting anxious. So it allows me to see exactly how the dog does when they're left alone. So it works out well for COVID times where we're not going into people's homes, but even well before that, we're working virtually because it works best for separation anxiety training. How do you deal with your dog's separation anxiety? So it's a pretty long answer to go over that, but in general, what we want to do is first, separation anxiety is it's like a panic disorder. It's like a panic attack in a human or any sort of phobia. And so, for example, a person who has a fear of heights, if we put them on a tall building, they might get sweaty palms, dry mouth, fast heart rate, all of these physiological symptoms of that phobia. And in the same way, every time a dog who has separation anxiety, when they're left alone, they're experiencing that same panic, that adrenaline, that cortisol, all of that. So the first thing we want to do is stop that panic so that the dog is able to learn. And what that means is to stop leaving the dog alone for longer than they can handle so that they can learn that being alone is not so scary. And then we start working on a desensitization protocol where we're introducing absences, the people leaving very, very gradually while the dog is comfortable, so they learn that the person walking out the door is not so scary, and then we can build up that time as we go along too. Reactive barking. So especially when you live in an apartment, that can be a problem because your neighbors don't want to hear your dog barking all the time. So figuring out if there are certain triggers for your dog. Is it just any person walking by? For Kona, for my dog, oftentimes men wearing hats that can cause him to bark more. And so if we're outside and we see somebody with a hat or something, we're going to create distance between us so that he has enough time to process, to focus on me rather than focusing on that person. So creating distance when possible is good. When you're in an apartment, if there are certain times of day that you know that the dog is going to be more inclined to bark, certain dogs walk by at certain times, just creating some management is the first thing to do. So whether it's blocking off that area where the dog barks at the window, closing the blinds or something like that, so the dog doesn't have the opportunity to rehearse that behavior. Then at the same time, if the dog's barking, making sure they have a host of other cues that you can give the dog, like come to me or go to your bed or something like that. So it's I can't think of the word, but a behavior that when he's doing that behavior, he can't be barking at the windows. So an incompatible behavior, that's the word I was looking for. So an incompatible behavior to barking at the window is laying down on your bed, because if he's laying down on his bed, he can't be barking at the window and he can be chewing on a treat or something like that on his bed. So redirecting that behavior and making sure that he has a whole host of other behaviors that he knows to be able to do that instead of barking. It is, and I can say unequivocally, it is never the dog owner's fault. Your dog's separation anxiety is not your fault. Dogs can get separation anxiety for a host of different reasons. We don't always know why, but it's not because you gave your dog too much attention or anything like that. You can let your dog sleep in your bed. Your dog can be on the furniture. There's no data to show that causes separation anxiety. Is separation anxiety more common in certain breeds? And the answer is absolutely not. I had hundreds of consultations at this point, and they're all different breeds, mixed breeds. It's all over the board. So a dog's breed doesn't necessarily predisposition them to separation anxiety. Same with rescues versus a dog that comes from a breeder. Sometimes people think that rescue dogs are more likely to have separation anxiety, but research has shown that that's not true. Even I work with a lot of dogs that come straight from the breeders and show signs of separation anxiety as well. So Natural Farms treats, these are our new favorite treats. One of the reasons that I really like them is because they're single source ingredients. So dogs like Kona who have allergies to certain proteins like chicken, I know exactly what is in these treats, so I don't have to worry about them having even just a little bit of chicken meal or something like that. If he has treats with that in it, it upsets his stomach. So it's really nice to have single source ingredients, and they're also ethically sourced. The packaging is green. I believe they're made out of recycled sugar cane, which is awesome. And another thing is Kona is a super picky dog. Sorry, there's flies bothering him. He's a super picky dog when it comes to treats. And so I can show you, these are some duck treats that most dogs would probably like. And he's turning his nose away from them versus the Natural Farms treats. He's, yes, very, very intrigued with these. Yeah, you want those. So it's always nice to be able to have treats that he really, really enjoys versus buying treats and having him refuse them. But he loves his Natural Farm treats. And again, they're great for when I need him to just lay down and chill somewhere. It keeps him busy and he's happy, and just that chewing motion also can help relax dogs as well. And so having bully sticks and tendons and the gullets and all the things that Natural Farm makes really helps him just relax and gives him some mental stimulation. Another thing on the bully sticks, a lot of times when I buy them at the store, they just smell terrible. So when we have guests over or something, I have to tell them, like, my house doesn't stink, it's just those treats that we give the dogs. But the Natural Farm ones are actually really low odor. I mean, you can't really smell them unless you're right up next to them, which is really, really nice.